Hello, mate.
Hello, bud.
How are you?
I'm okay, except a little bit frustrated with the internet today, but never mind.
Oh,
It's
is that
one
what
of
you're on
the,
your phone?
yeah. I'm not trading on my phone. I've got my phone tethered to my computer for internet connection.
Hold on
So
one
far, so good.
second.
Might even work better than the bloody internet.
Uh, right, one moment.
Yep.
Okay, so we just got more news. We see that the FTSE 100 is coming down. The show has started. I've unfortunately.
Perfect timing. We just took TP1 on cable.
Oh, well done, buddy. Well done. Nicely done. So, what was that? It was an upside trade. You were bouncing off the daily pivot, I presume.
Yep. Yeah, it was a big
Uh,
hit.
Let me just double check it. So, is that a 30-minute trade?
4 hour, mate.
4 hour. Interesting. Looking at this, FTSE 100 is easing to the downside right now. Missed the entry for a further short here, but it may come back. I think if it pops up, I'm not sure whether we're going to see this daily pivot today, but it looks like we've got some resistance here. So I think if it pops back up to that level, then I'm going to be looking at the short this morning. Yeah.
So
So
where
the
are you up to on balance? You still got your shorts in?
Still got my shorts in. I've taken profit while the market's been not taken profit on those shorts, obviously, but I've been trading while the market's been up in this area here, and then just waiting for the shorts to come back. That's all I'm doing really. Just kind of a few longs and a few shorts in this area as well. So I took a long here, as you know, during the Mario Draghi rate announcement. So I took a long there. It took a little while to get in. I think I entered 3 times in the end, but the move was so explosive that the two that I had to take off the table were not even a problem. The loss on them were so minute because I did literally come out within a pip or two. Maybe within a few pips. When it didn't quite shape up for me, I came out within a few pips. But when it exploded really well. So I took profit on this one. I took some profit on this move here. And there was some other little bits and pieces over here as well that I've taken profit on. So there's a few that I traded in this whole area up here, and now I'm just waiting to see whether those longer term trades will, either balance out or actually shape up for some profit. I'm not really that fussed if they don't shape up for some profit, but if they could balance out, that'd be fantastic.
Well, you've
Because
done some work on it. It's been a big project.
oh man,
this month.
unbelievable month really. And the thing is, a lot of it is because because I'm on a bit of a run, month over month of profit. I just don't want to break my run. I've kind of got my run in the market, and things have been going, so well that I just don't want to. I don't want to take a losing month now,
Fair enough too.
even if there's a little
I
bit of
took one
profit.
for you last month, so you
What's
can get. I took one for you last month, so there you go. Free.
yeah, yeah, but it's all about whether it's all about yeah, even a little bit of profit this month, I'd be happy with. So I don't need too much now for this market to drop. So if the market drops down, I think it's got to come down about 40 pips from this point, then we will be flat. So any other trades that I can add here will diminish that, obviously. So I'm looking for just a little bit of a bounce, maybe there, popping down and then popping back up again. Donald Trump added some further sanctions on Iran, and from what I read, I think Iran have effectively come out and said, "Well, that's it, negotiation, and any chance of negotiation is done." It's all over. We're not interested in talking anymore if you're going to slap those sanctions on. But I'd say that there are fairly clear signals in the FTSE 100 that there are people distributing here, because we really, we did see yesterday this level of resistance. This is what we were all focused on yesterday. or what I was focused on at least on the FTSE yesterday. Level of resistance there. Then we had this trend line breakdown here, but my problem was all about timing. Now the market popped up in the morning and came back a little bit. It popped up again during the US session and came all the way back down again. So even though these bars don't necessarily provide trigger, they do provide a lot of information. Or enough information. You know, they tell us that. You know, I did wonder whether we might see the weekly pivot when we were talking in the morning, and we did. But what was interesting was the absolute rejection of that level as soon as it was touched, and coming back down here and creating what I don't know whether you could. I suppose you could call it a high test bar because of the break of this particular area here. So you know a lower low and just giving us that lower high. So there's plenty of entries that have taken the trade here. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, that candle looks good to me.
Yeah, it's a nice candle. It did pop up again actually overnight, but it's easing back down now. That the good thing for me, I suppose, is that it doesn't really matter whether whether I get an entry or not, because I've got my shorts in. So if it comes down significantly enough, then everything's going to be good. You know, I'm quite happy to see how things go. What I just quite like to do is balance the shorts up. So everything that I've been trading in between time will actually be my profit for the month. So I'll be sort of quite keen to see what gives here. And it has been, as you say, it's been a lot of work, and obviously I'm not
Yeah,
out
and
the
you'll have to
woods
claim
yet.
overtime on that money.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you were with me when I was trying to kind of trade this one correctly,
Yeah.
the Mario Draghi one, and yes, it was just kind of it was quite intense, but it did work out really well because and I don't know how this works really, but I got a little report that he was going to announce an interest rate or announce some easing even before he'd said it. Bloomberg seemed to get that report. I
No.
guess they get the speech, and they said it, and then it was just like, well, what are you going to do here? You're going to trade it long at that point because the setup was already there. My problem was I didn't have a driver, and then all of a sudden they say that, and you think, well, the driver's coming. Then it doesn't matter if it's here now. Is the driver's coming? So better off just entering in and taking the trade, and that and that's what happened. You know, it worked out really well. We do have something that looks like a head and shoulders pattern that we can't really call a head and shoulders because of the expiration of futures. But what we do have is certainly some sort of wedge or channel. I'm not really sure. Maybe a broadening pattern. So yeah, just any drift down into this area, then we're starting to look really good on the market, and maybe we start to look for longs in that area. But I just want to see some genuine breakdown. If we think about drivers and news for today, we do have this Iranian story. I'm not that up as yet on everything to do with world events, but I've got a fair handle on it. But this one is I guess this is what bothers me slightly. The Fed Chair Powell speaking at 6 o'clock, and what I'd love is to be out by then. Now that might put pay to anything, or in actual fact, what I'd really like is to enter a short somewhere around this area. Market comes down, close the other shorts off, and leave that one on if it's come down far enough. Leaving that one on in the market just to give me some room to trade that particular speech. That would be fantastic. So that would be my ideal, mate. I am looking for a short, but it's how I get into it, and I'm just looking to see whether we bounce at this level and then we're able to take those shorts on. Now, have you dropped out? You may have dropped out. Yeah, you dropped out, mate. No problem. No problem. Don't worry about that. Yeah, don't worry about that. Okay, so it is just me today. By the looks of things, Jeff's got he's trying to get online, trying to gang off his phone, I guess, bounce off his phone. So he's likely to have problems. So that isn't a big deal. I am just going to listen to the news in the background. I won't do so much talking if Jeff's not here, but I'm going to have the news on in the background, and I will come in with you guys as and when. Unless you've got certain things you want to look at, of course, that's completely different. But I haven't got a lot to say on this. We're looking for shorts in the market. We're still looking to add to the shorts. I've got some shorts on, but I'm looking to add some more. And I want to see whether we can bounce at this point and just take us back up again. But I'd kind of like what I would do normally if I wasn't on the show is just have the news on in the background. So what I will do is have the news on in the background. I'll be here with you guys. You guys can put the laptops on, and we'll effectively be here together. But I will interject as we go. And when I've got something to say, I won't just talk. I'll interject when we've got something to say. Or if you guys want me to look at something specific, or you've got any questions, then I will also interject. So feel free to answer questions. But let's just have a bit of quiet just for 5 minutes, and I'll listen and see if I can get ahead of the news today. All right, we currently have adverts, so we're not too concerned with listening to that. I just want to know what if anything is a big driver today. Actually, let's just discuss a little bit about some of these barometers as well. So what I wanted yesterday, and the reason I wasn't so keen on trading yesterday was the S&P. It was really all about the S&P, not really shaping
Hello.
up. Oh, hello, mate. Oh, you're back.
Just ducked out for a bit. I got a phone call and it disconnected me. Bloody
Oh,
hell.
fine. Okay, no problem. All right, no problem. You can take those. I was just going to discuss the other barometers. Have you got anything to look at specifically, mate? Actually, it'd be interesting to know what you're doing with the pound. Let's look at that, because I can
Yeah,
talk
okay.
about this market in a little while, because what I'm after is a bounce at this low level here, so we can get in. But let's talk about what you've got, and then we'll come back to this in a moment.
Okay.
Oh, if you can
just
do your
hang on.
screen, that is. I don't know whether you're going to be able to do that. Are you?
Yeah, it's trying. It's trying hard, but so far it's just not adjusting. Hang on a
Jeff took a
second.
long. That's okay. Jeff took a long on the pound this morning, off the 4 hour. And interesting, because when I look at this, I see a potential for a Jeff trade on the half an hour chart. Is that right, Jeff?
On the pound?
Yeah.
Mate, have a little look at the half-hour chart. I've been in and out all day and haven't got to that pointy end yet. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. I got in
See, I'm
before that.
learning, mate. I'm learning.
Yeah. I got in before that, of course. But, yeah, genuinely there. Look, in fact, let me just have a... Have you got my screen yet? I'll put
We
my
should have your
on.
screen. Yeah, we should have your screen. We haven't got your screen. No, I've given you the power, but we don't have your visual.
All right. Well, let me try it again.
Now we got it.
Okay, cool. So, this would be the trade that you're talking about. It could be, be there, and that's it there. That's your master candle there, right there. Would I be safe enough to trade that? I think so. Looks to be tons of room there. Yeah, that's a trade. But the trade I took was this one, tossing up between this and pound Aussie, as a matter of fact. But when I saw this line, which is a good line, actually broke, and we failed to get back below it. We got below it, but we couldn't close below it, and the candle looks like a typical bounce off the yesterday's daily pivot. So thought that was a reasonable one. We've taken profit just before the highs here. We'll take more profit at the monthly pivot. Actually, no, we won't take more profit at the monthly pivot. What we will do is we'll just move our stops to entry, and then we might take some more off the table at this level, and then we'll just let it rip and see if we can get up to the top of the range. So that's the basis of the trade, really. It was a break and retest of the trend line, and not much more to it. As I said, pound Aussie was the other option. And as I said to the guys this morning, I really want this to go and come back. What I'd really like to see is a break of the weekly pivot. So I'll close above here on the current 4-hour bar, and then a pullback. That would get me really interested in entering pound Aussie. And now that we're free trading the pound, nothing to stop us here. So we can apply full risk to that if we wish. And that's probably what I'll look at. Obviously, it's not going to happen in this show, but gee, I'd love to see a close above the weekly pivot and then a pull back to this trend line. That would be super duper. And that is the story on the pound, mate. Do you want me to go through a couple more? Euro and Aussie, I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on the euro. I've got a little bit more invested interest in the euro these days because I've got a friend who trades the euro very, very successfully. I mean, his account is up a crazy amount, but he was talking about going short a few days ago, and I wonder what he's doing now.
I wonder what he is doing now. He's probably wanting to go short and at a better price.
Well, he will.
And I'm in that boat as well.
Yeah.
But that said, it's a pretty good 2 bars that we've seen the last 3 weeks.
I mean, is it likely? Just think today. Sorry to cut you off, but is it likely that we see today that because I always look at the news event that's coming, and the way that I look at the news is number one, the speculation, and number two, the actual. And do you think it's likely today that there could be some speculation of a stronger dollar, and that's what eases us back down against it from today?
Unfortunately, I can't show the dollar index on this screen, but if I have a look at the dollar index, which I am at the moment on another computer or another screen, it's broken pretty strong support. So that doesn't indicate right now, although it could easily come back and retest that. But as far as a longer term trade or even intermediate term trade, I think the dollar's still under extreme pressure for, and we went through this yesterday. I've got a long-term bias short the dollar, have for years, but at the moment, I see a rebound, but it doesn't look to be very promising in terms of depth or body or length. As far as I can see, we've got about 70 odd pips on the dollar index to get back to that broken trend line. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you. And that's about as good as it gets. So in terms of being able to trade against the dollar today, then yes, I'm a seller. But that looks reasonable. Weekly pivot looks like a nice target on the euro, to be absolutely fair. And it's around about the same amount of pips. So yeah, I could easily be talked into that. What I would need to see, of course, is something that tells me it's on. And at the moment, I don't see that. On the 30-minute chart, it's not there. On the 4-hour charts, it's possibly bending into a bearish engulfing bar. If that were the case, I'd like to see it bounce off daily pivot, maybe hit this area here, the 114 level, because that's where we're playing. We're playing just above 114, or just on 114 at the moment. So if we come back under 114 and then retest 114 from below, that would be probably enough for me to go. And as I say, there's a couple of targets there. One horizontal level is probably that one. I think I'd be okay to go to the weekly pivot if that were to stand up. Reversals? Oh, don't know. Don't know. I guess that level there is short of retesting the trend line, but yeah, I'm. You can see I'm umming and ahhing here. I can totally see this level here, and that's kind of giving me, yeah, I can see that, and it is, 116 the figure. That's probably all I can see at the moment, mate. It's that level. But a retest here definitely on. It is oversold, overbought rather, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you'd be looking at the shorts here.
Today, yes.
Yeah.
And a weekly pivot retest would be good.
So,
But I can't get in just now. I've got no right to do so.
and where are we at with the pound and the euro?
Yeah, look, I said this one yesterday. It's tricky.
I mean, what's driving this pound?
Probably just back to the same old thing. It's cheap.
Yeah, but there's got to be. I mean, we're getting to-ing and fro-ing about Boris Johnson over here.
I
You know,
don't know. Really buying into he can't lose. I don't see that in the market. I mean,
well, do you know what? The interesting thing is he may well. I mean, I wonder whether he's not up against a particularly strong candidate in Jeremy Hunt. That's the first thing to recognise. The other thing is that he may well win the battle, but not the war on Brexit. But I mean, there sounds like there's enough potential defectors that would not allow Boris Johnson to push through his no deal Brexit plans, and that could be something that that is a bit of a driver.
Okay.
He seems to think he can. He's convinced that he can get no deal through Parliament, but I think that there's a cat in hell's chance of him doing that. And maybe that's some of it. The defectors do seem to be stacking up.
Okay. I think really, we're not witnessing a massively strong pound. What we are witnessing is a weak dollar.
Yeah,
and that seems to be across the board. So,
but you see, the pound has strengthened against the euro in the last hour.
Yeah, it has.
And the yen and the Swiss. It seems to be having a pretty good time of it right now.
It's pound day, you reckon? Oh well, I won't complain about that, I suppose. But,
no.
The real story here is as I said yesterday, it's a tale of two cases, and I can make a case for both. Yesterday we saw this on this being the 4-hour chart. We saw this break. We saw this re-entry above the broken trend line and retest of same. That's a long for me in most circumstances, but not willing to do that. The reason I wasn't willing to do that, apart from the fact that we're trading straight into resistance and the high, is that the daily chart was giving me this bar as a break and retest of that very same line. So it wasn't really conclusive to me as to which way we're going, and it still isn't, because now we throw the resistance trend line into play and we look at that on the 4-hour chart. What we've really got is another potential false break of the resistance area. So this is all over the shop, and I really can't read it. If I'm serious and disregarding all of that I've just mentioned, I'm seeing a big bearish engulfing bar and a lower high. But I don't know if I can trust it. And that's where I'm at. coin tossing here. It needs to show me that either this is right
Yeah.
or this is right.
Yeah.
And as yet, I can't tell. I really
But
don't know which one.
but the longer term analysis that we had, I mean, that's still a right shoulder, isn't it? And the longer term analysis we had
Yeah.
on the pound was for some strength against the euro.
Yes, true.
So yeah, I mean, is it possible that now starts to yeah? I mean, I see what you mean. I suppose in a way, a break of that weekly pivot would just be that would give us enough confidence that the short is more likely.
Yeah, that tells me that's the confirmation. Well, it's not really just the break. I need to see the retest as well. So
Yeah.
let me get rid of this line. I've just showed you what the potential for that has been, and that's still in play. And if you decide to trade that, you'd be in there now, and probably wishing you weren't. But anyway, let's get rid of that line. And now look at it from a resistance break point of view. And still bear in mind that you've got this big bearish engulfing bar sitting here, and you've got a right shoulder, and you've got a potential now for this to become a false break. And that's, partial what we're seeing. And as you just said, if we get that break of the weekly pivot and then a retest of this trend line, that becomes exactly what I needed, confirmation that this lower high is backing up this bearish engulfing bar, and that should take us down to the next support level, which is here.
Yeah. I really like that, which is the neckline. And actually, if anybody really wants to know how to trade Head and Shoulders, that's the way you trade it. You trade on the right shoulder, you take profit on the neckline, and then you see if it breaks through. And if it breaks through, your second half is off to the races. And if it doesn't, you've taken profit anyway.
Yep. Yeah, that's nice. And if you can load up on the second half, all the better.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, that's the some of the mistake that I think is made is that everybody thinks that if you take half off, then you've only got half the trade to make profit on. But that's not the case. What you're looking to do is then add when you've got confirmation of the next breakdown. Then you're looking to add at the next retracement on that. So you're looking to play the trend as long as possible.
Yeah, I wish I had a pen. That would be right. So yeah, we're looking to enter, just around about underneath the weekly pivot somewhere, or back on this trend line or something like that. Take our profit, just before we get to here, and then let it break. We're still in profit. We're still making money, and then let it retest that area. And if you can see that, that's the time to load up when you get that second wave. The second wave is where the cash is.
Yeah,
that's going to be the big driver, right down here. So yeah, that's the play for sure.
So the market is open. Let's see what happens to the pound at the open of the market. The FTSE 100 is testing the lows, and let's see if it can go through down here. In many respects, okay, if we don't get our short on, we don't get our short on. Here we go. Actually, it's coming right back up again here. Let's see if we can get this on.
I nearly made it to my second take profit, but not quite.
Okay, I'm just going to see if I can add here to the FTSE. Make sure I don't load up too heavily. So I'm looking to go short on the FTSE, but somewhere near this high probably, or I'm just going to double check the indicators and everything else. And this trend line here looks pretty good. Yeah, so I'm looking to add. If it touches this particular price here, that's where I'm looking to add. If it doesn't, then it doesn't, because what that's done is created a. I'm on the wrong time frame for my trading. If it doesn't, then it's refused the. What's that, buddy?
It's pretty much exactly what we were just talking about.
What testing?
Well, you've broken the neckline. You've already retested the neckline, I suppose.
Yeah, and actually, I hadn't considered this, but this is also a head and shoulders pattern here on the 15, but it looks like it's going to break down the neckline. That's no big deal because I've got my shorts in, and just to illustrate that to everybody, I don't want to sort of say that I've got a short in the market that doesn't there. I don't like leaving my levels on the chart because I find them a little bit distracting, but The shorts are in the market, as you can see here. Shorts are there, so we start to get through, and there's going to be money to be made. And if not, then what I want to do is see it pop up, add here, and then see if I can kind of double up on my shorts. These shorts have been in for a long time, so it'd be kind of nice to see this breakdown, mate. I mean, it's, I wish I had a slightly better price, but it's no major one. If that does start to break down, I'm taking these off because I don't like to see my lines. And then we will see what happens. But a good start anyway, mate. Making some decent headway. I will check the barometers in a moment. In fact, let's go around the grounds and check some of the barometers. So we'll start with the pound.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Pound at monthly pivot. Now we didn't mention that before. Is that an area of take profit for you? Obviously.
Yes, it is, mate. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we got the pound. Nice strong move to the upside. So decent start for the pound, pushing to the upside. Then we'll go around the grounds with the other barometers. Let's have a quick look at gold. Now we know what this is about. In fact, let's have a look at WTI. WTI is going to be part of the tensions. Interesting that isn't flying. It could be that the move is somewhat priced in, but
they're probably waiting on what OPEC
that's
does.
true, isn't it? Yeah. So we got the OPEC meeting, as Jeff says today, and that might just cap the move to the upside with WTI. But I would strongly advise, after that OPEC meeting has passed, to look for longs. I'm not saying go long, but I'm saying look for your longs after the OPEC meeting has passed, because the tensions in the Middle East are very apparent. Donald Trump has come out and he slapped further sanctions on Iran, and with those further sanctions on Iran, it means that the retaliation has been Iran saying that's the end of any potential talks. So with the end of any potential talks, that's not particularly hot for the market. So we have got.
I wonder what sort of a threat that is. I mean, what does that mean when you threaten a bully?
Well, the thing is, I think what it comes down to is Iran effectively saying, well, maybe America are maybe the United States are out of ammunition. He's flying, he's throwing everything he possibly can. The tensions are certainly mounting up. I think he slapped on the biggest amount of sanctions that he possibly could on Iran. So he is going in fairly aggressively at this point. But Iran saying that's the end of negotiations. I suppose they're saying we're going to continue with our nuclear program, whether you like it or not. And now you've just done this, then there's no way that you're going to stop the nuclear program happening. So maybe it's a bit of that. Maybe it's just a bit of
Poking a bear, though, isn't it? Really?
I beg your pardon?
It's poking a bear, though, really, isn't it?
Oh, with Donald Trump, yeah. I mean, the fact. I mean, they're both kind of bears in some respects, but with Donald Trump at the helm, it just goes to show that he is not fearful at all about sending warships or airstrikes to a country. When we get the reports about him calling off the strike at the very last moment, he's not concerned about that by all accounts. So it is going to make the market nervous, and with stiff sanctions and the retaliation, if you like, of those stiff sanctions, saying effectively sticking up two fingers, then it could increase the chance of actual military action. So you're right. It's probably not the best course of action by either Donald Trump or Iran. But you know what? I saw yesterday them chanting in what is their parliament, "Death to America." So they have got no friends. The Americans have got no friends in Iran, and it's a tenuous situation, and it really does seem like they could be poking the hornet's nest there. So we haven't got WTI moving to the upside, but that does suggest that we would probably get some further upside on WTI. And as you say, maybe we are waiting for OPEC, and maybe the market isn't quite ready to break down just yet. There is probably another leg higher
I don't
here.
have your screen, by the way, mate.
Oh, you don't have my screen?
No.
Okay. There we go. Another leg higher here. So let's look for the next leg being around about the 59 level. If it breaks that, then we're probably looking at around about 60.50, and we're probably going to be, thinking about trend lines in play as well. So that would suggest that we could run into this level. We'll pull up a fib as well. Well, the fibs don't really match, so it could be this one. That's suggesting 59. So somewhere at about the 59 level, it looks like oil could still rally to. So let's check out what happens with OPEC and see whether they actually have a negative effect on oil or a positive effect. Looking at gold as well. So let's check out gold. Gold is currently, where are you, gold? Need to put gold in a much better place because that can't be gold. It is. My goodness me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Gold is off and running, and I don't see too much. I don't know why I don't have too much information on gold, but gold being through this level, I mean, this is an incredibly strong month, but this tells you really enough about fear that's out there. There's enough protection going on with gold as well, and I'm not sure whether that's going to be coming back soon or not. Wouldn't be so keen on adding to gold if you're in the longs at this particular point. But well, in fact, adding's okay, but I think entering gold at this level would be a little bit trickier, not necessarily dangerous, because there's probably enough tension out there to suggest that that it could weaken. And then we just go around the other stocks in the world today. We have the Euro Stocks 50 down so far today. We have the CAC, which is just about holding on to some levels here. But when I looked at the CAC yesterday on some of these daily bars, it does suggest some weakness at this particular level. The China 50 as well, weak for the day. These are daily charts, so let's put it on the 4-hour. Real big tank to the downside. Dow Jones futures have just started to ease to the downside, but they've got a little hang on right now. Nikkei down for the day. Sorry, that was the DAX we were looking at earlier. That's the Dow Jones futures there. A little bit weaker so far, right on a level of support. So that breaking down could be quite significant. This is the DAX. So again, the European stocks are looking a shade weak, and finally the S&P, a proper breakdown with the S&P in many respects, because we've got actually all of a sudden a true breakdown of a potential support line there. So this is a more accumulation, sorry, this is more distribution going on here, and now we've broken the levels. Now it could ease to the downside, it could turn around, but right now if we are trading technically, then we have a lower low. So we're just looking for that lower high and then a potential breakdown. Could it hang on, but before 6 o'clock? Yeah, it could. I'm not sure what necessarily is a driver today. I'm not sure whether Donald Trump signing that paper is going to make a huge difference today or not. I haven't really got a real opinion about that. And I have to say, as the market really kind of clings on with its fingernails, then it doesn't look like at this stage that those tensions have completely filtered through. Now we're only in the first 10 minutes of trade in the European session, so it might start to filter through in the next hour or so, or it may be that we're waiting for OPEC, and it may be that we're waiting for Jerome Powell at 6 p.m., which is around about 8 hours away. So still some bumps in the road if you're looking for the short, but that's a good thing because it still means that there are chances and opportunities to add or get in. Which is what I'm looking to do. So S&P pushing up to either this level. In actual fact, let's look in some further detail. Yeah, maybe this lower level, maybe the pivots as well would act as some sort of resistance point, especially with that trend line there. But S&P struggling to get through. Let's call it 29.54. I think would show quite a lot of information. So let's see what happens. If and when it gets to that particular price. If it doesn't even touch that price, then I would suggest that that there is plenty of room for some downside. So barometers are suggesting downside, mates, and nothing hugely significant. I mean, that the market isn't absolutely tanking as yet, so there's no out-and-out fear. but there's certainly some lining up going on from what I see for some downside. Now, the last thing we need to check is, let's just check the news for the day. So we got OPEC all day. We have got consumer confidence. Interesting number in many respects, because another strong number from the United States is going to put pressure on Jerome Powell not to raise interest rates. So we're looking really at maybe the US market to give us some clearer direction. But if the US market is somewhere around about, as I say, that the daily pivot on the S&P, and that number comes out fairly strong or flat-ish, anything around about the 134 to 136, that would have a clear indication to me that we are probably looking for downside into the speech. So let's watch that number. And finally, I just want to bring up my shares. Let's have a look what they are suggesting at this stage. And shares are suggesting. Okay, so we're not fully opened up as yet. So we've got a couple of minutes to wait right now, but I just want to see what the barometers are suggesting on the stock. So looking under the hood, want to see what's going on with that, and we also probably need to check. Here we go. Probably also need to check the bond market as well, with yield up. So the 10-year is now above the 2. Both those yields popping up. So the 10-year is now at 2.999, so almost at 3% on the 10-year Treasury, and at the 2-year is at 2.91. So looks like, yeah, there's a little pop this morning. It looks like, oh no, is that? It might be delayed somewhat. I might have a slight delay on that, so don't quote me on that. I'll look into those a little bit further, mate, and come back to you on the Treasury yield, so we can get some kind of idea of how they could help us out as well. But that's pretty much the roundup at this particular stage, mate. Yeah, I mean it's effectively pointing for some weakness. That's what we got in the market right now. I'm just going to check out these treasuries, and I'm going to check out the barometers, which we should have now actually. Let's check out what they are stating. Okay, so here's our looking under the hood, how the markets opened up. Now it closed yesterday at 52%, so this is on a slight delay, unfortunately. But let's see what it gives us when we get our information coming in here. I will eventually get this to give me the actual time. There we go. So the market is giving us our first read here. Actually, not too negative as we open here. Interesting. 69% of stocks opened. So when it sort of like pops in the morning, it's opened up in positive territory. That doesn't really suggest downside. And when we're kind of gathering information, we need to sort of understand that all the information is important. So that is not really suggestive of downside at this particular point. Now, if this changes very, very quickly, then that's going to give me a bit more confidence to enter the short. Now it's 66, so it's maybe weakening somewhat. But when we think about that, when the market opened, it popped to the downside on very weak breadth or market breadth. So the market breadth isn't particularly weak. We need the market breadth really to kind of catch up. And if it does, then we can start looking at those shorts a bit more confidently. But right now, I think we're still waiting, mate, which is not what I thought I'd be doing.
Well, a little bit happening. As we said, OPEC meetings, Powell's talking. There's a few things yet to be decided. So I don't think it's a massive issue that the market's just having a little bit of a pause. It's just one of those things where we're waiting for something to happen. I'll take a look at some currencies, shall I,
Yes,
and see what I can find. Very first thing I have to do is screen my share or
screen your
share my
share.
screen.
I think we should do a whole show like that.
What a good idea. I'm going to start with the Aussie, and the reason I want to start with the Aussie is because it's the first on my little queue here, but it's also one that's very very interesting. I keep saying, what the hell? Why is the Aussie rallying? But it's retraced at this point. To get beyond here would be a considerable effort from my point of view. It has closed above the monthly pivot yesterday, however, and thus far today, the market is just deciding, really, really, do we want to drive the Aussie beyond 69 cents? And I think they're going to have to say no, because I can't see a reason other than a weak US dollar, and we've spoken about that as well. The weak US dollar can only be weak for so long, and before it retraces. And I think that may well be imminent. Whether it's today or otherwise is another story. But I can't see the Aussie beyond here. I really can't. It is something that confounds me. We've had 5 straight days of rallying, albeit two of them barely, but that's still a positive situation. I'd really like to see this break above this trend line here and then consolidate, get back below it, below the monthly pivot, retest both of those from below, and yeah, I'm short very quickly. The technical side of this is still telling me that we're getting lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, potential lower high. And if there's to be a lower high, then what better place would there be than the monthly pivot, daily pivot, resistance trend line confluence area? So that's all I see. Well, it's not all I see. I definitely see the top of this channel as well. And if we were to break through here and get a substantial close, then I guess that level comes into play. In particular, at that confluence area. So it's going to creep there if that's the case. Price in time gives us around about the 12th of next month. I'm not saying that's impossible, not by any stretch, but gee, it's in my book unlikely. But there you go. I'm not the. I don't make the prices, and I just I don't know. I can't see it getting beyond this level. So I'm a bear. I'm absolutely an Aussie bear. And the 4 hour chart, is it going to allow me to trade it? Well, as you can see, we've now gone into snoozy mode, and the market, I guess, thinks a bit like me. What are we doing here? What are we doing at 69.60? We should be at 65. So pause. It's the same as Ash was just saying. What are we waiting for here? Perhaps we're waiting on something to get a little bit more serious around Iran. Perhaps we're waiting for, I don't know. I don't know. Commodity currencies are doing pretty well, and that's probably a thing at the moment as well. And Aussie certainly is in that group of merry men, if you like. The Aussie, the Kiwi, the CAD. Kiwi's taken off. Wow. Why? Well, I guess they were thinking, or they were talking, interest rate cuts on the Kiwi hasn't happened, and they're not forecast. Well, sorry, it did happen last time, but the projected further cut looks like it's not going to happen. That's tomorrow, I believe. Yes, tomorrow sometime. So we'll find the answer to that question. But we're not talking Kiwi at the moment. We're talking Aussie, and really all I see here is the potential for this to, in terms of tradability, is to break this line, get above it, back underneath it, retest the confluence area, and I'd be in like proverbial Flynn. So that's my analysis on the Aussie. As far as today is concerned, gee, it's tough because we are in that consolidation area, and I'm still of a bearish nature, but I want to see that bigger picture happen that I've just described. I want to see this breakout and consolidate on the bigger time frame and get back underneath here and retest that confluence area. That's exactly what I want to see. So is it premature to trade this short at the moment? And I think the answer to that is probably yes. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me as the day unfolds. But if I watch this and watch it closely, I may get a strong indication that maybe the just in case trade is potentially there, because after all we have broken on a 30-minute chart that exact line I was talking about. We're back underneath it. Should we get now break this short term trade line and retest the confluence area from below, then that becomes interesting as well. So I'm not ruling it out. I don't know if it's a FOMO trade or not. Maybe it is. But if I saw this break and retest those areas, then I think I'd probably have to consider a short at that point. So that's the Aussie. Pound, whoa, comes straight back at us. Okay, so the London traders disagree with obviously the Brussels traders and the Asian traders, because we've come straight back into a non-event. That breakout didn't happen, according to what I'm seeing.
I mean, is
Fortunately,
that something to do with the fact that we are such a strong level with that monthly pivot? There's just going to be a lot of orders there. I mean, this could still turn here, right?
yeah, we are absolutely. We didn't quite get there,
No.
and you know, on the basis of this, when you have a strong move like that, you're going to get some reaction. You are going to get some people taking profit. This looks like it might be a little bit more than that, however. I don't know. It's interesting. If we close above here, if this candle were to close above here, I think everything would be okay. But if it closes below here or even below the trend line, then something else might be happening. Yeah, I don't know. It's certainly a good response. There's no question. As I said, we didn't make the monthly pivot, so you would have thought we'd have a look at that at least.
Yeah.
That hasn't been the case.
Still time though.
Oh, absolutely. If it hung around here for, where are we? That's the daily chart, 4-hour chart. What I want to look at. Yeah, it's not a convincing break at this stage, I've got to say. It's a look at the monthly pivot, really, isn't it? But it didn't quite get there. That's what it is at this point in time. And the market's saying, well, not sure just yet. But I think there'll be another crack at it. Yeah, I do. And hopefully it'll break through there, of course. Oh, what would you do here if you weren't in this trade that I'm in, which is long and we're free trading, fortunately? I think I'd have to wait and see what happens next. This is going to be crucial here. You can see it's a horizontal level as well as the trade line, so it is a pivotable moment, if you like. And I think if we can, as I say, close above here, everything will be okay. If not, anything could happen. Euro. Well, we've spoken about this as well at length, really, and I don't see that we're at a strong resistance level. I don't see that, which means, despite the fact that I think this is overbought, that's a very strong bar. Even a slingshot trade there on the weekly chart that we missed. I've got to be a bull here, I think, but I don't see how I can get in unless this comes back and retests the trend line and the weekly pivot, and that may be a big ask. This looks strong, I've got to say. Can I trade it at all? Do I trade the retracement? Can I trade the retracement? Well, I can always trade the retracement if I've got the right signals, and at the moment I've just got nothing. really nothing there. I'm not seeing. This is, mind you, a very small time frame, 30-minute chart. But I need to see something of a reversal situation here. I mean, you can't call those three candles. I can't call those three candles reversal candles. If I go to the 4-hour chart, I can see a reversal candle. So that's part one of the equation. There needs to be two other parts before I can trade it. One has to be a pullback on this move, and the second has to be a lower high. If I saw both of those two things, then I can consider a short on a smaller time frame, perhaps. But until that happens, nothing there for the euro for me. It is too far gone. Now, this one I'm really interested in, and that is pound Aussie, and I want to trade it to the high side, similar to the pound. We shot through the weekly pivot, but we've had that big pullback since the open. I again would love to see this, exactly as I said before, close above the weekly pivot and then retest the trend line, and I would be long. If I'm happy to do that on the 30-minute chart, this candle would be too big. Well, I think it would be too big. Yeah, it would. Contextually, even if it's not numerically, contextually, I don't like it. So this becomes a tough assignment now to trade on the 30-minute chart as a false break. It has to be the 4-hour, and we'll wait on that. But I'd love to see this close here, above the weekly pivot. That would be pretty cool. Kiwi CAD, I'm now out of that short that I've been in for a while, as the Kiwi's taken off, and against the CAD, I can't believe why, but it has, and that's just something up with which we must put. Again, we had a break of the trend line. We almost had a retest. I think I spoke about this yesterday, and I didn't want to trade it. That was a fish that got away, I guess. But I didn't want to trade it because A, it hadn't retested the trend line, and B, my bias was in completely the opposite direction. So yeah, that's one that got away. I guess it was a genuine setup, bar if you like the failure to retest the trend line, but it was there. What do I do now? Well, I wait until this. I'll probably draw another trend line, I suppose, or make it another trade line, put it through here, and if we were to come back under here, retest it, then I can play the short. But we spoke about this yesterday, didn't we, mate? This which looks like a tuning fork, but it is a morning star, yeah.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And it proved to be right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice
reversal pattern. The morning star. It really does. It's a really good 3-bar pattern.
Yeah, well, it worked. Certainly worked. And,
did we have the rate decision? We did we?
No, it's either tomorrow morning my time.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah.
Or the next day. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nothing to do here really until we get back underneath. Euro pound, we spoke about this earlier as well. Again, I need to see the right thing, and that is a close below the weekly pivot, then a retest of this area. Then I'm short. That works for me. Nothing there at the moment. Aussie yen I'm also keen on, but gee whiz, how frustrating can this be? You ask the market to close below the weekly pivot. What's it do? Closes above it. Don't you love that? So this now becomes a real battle of wills. The will to wait versus the will to get in. And oh my God. Can you see the confluence area here where we've got a support trend line? We've got yesterday's daily pivot and we've got the weekly pivot. And the market is asking me, per my strategy, to trade this right there, short. What a prick. It's not fair.
No, because I don't know how you do that, mate. I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? You have to ignore it. I guess when we got Aussie yen, yeah, I guess you have to ignore it. Yen's obviously going to be an interesting trade. Couldn't you put an order below the trend line? I mean, would that still not be?
Yeah,
feasible?
you could, but you know what? If that then turned around as a false break off here,
Yeah,
I'd be so peeved because I'd rather lose on my strategy than trying to stretch it, And I
yeah,
missed what 5 or 10 pips if I put my entry here,
yeah,
where if it goes 5 or 10 pips beyond that, I would have taken profit
mm,
had I traded it here. If I traded here, I can't take the profit. If you
yeah,
understand what I'm saying.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the real conundrum of this particular scenario. The way to play this is to wait and allow it to break and then retest. That's the way to play it, and that's the way I will play it because to trade short here is not a great idea for me. And if it goes, it goes. So be it. There'll be another opportunity at some stage. But it's a pain. Here's the trade here off this bar. That was your entry. But again, look at that. You're trading straight into the daily pivot. Wow.
yeah,
Rules are rules. They're making it really tough here. And I'm just going to have to watch this happen, I think, and hope there is another opportunity. Look, this is red hot. It's a nice little flag pattern. It's not perfect, but this is ready to go short. I'm sure it is. Absolutely sure it is. Wow. Trying to find another way. I don't think they're going to let me. Could they come back here and do it all again? Maybe they could, but I don't think so. Oh, look, there's that FOMO again. You just know that this is wrong, but you think, oh, if I don't, I'm going to miss this, and it's going to go 200 pips.
yeah,
But I will wait because that's the wise thing to do. I know if I continue to do that over and over and over again, I'll finish up a winner. So that's the way I have to look at it. But definitely, I'm a bear on Aussie yen without question. Euro yen is a different kettle of fish, but I can't see anything here that excites me at all. I don't see a direction. That's the 4 hour chart. Let me look at the daily. Again, I think we're in no man's land here. I can see that we've come to the monthly pivot and bouncing off it at the moment, but we're bouncing straight into the weekly pivot. I think this has probably got a little bit of consolidation to do before we get it. Pound yen is pretty much the same. Okay, I can see something there. That's almost interesting. Let me have a look at that. This might be a proxy for Aussie yen. Let me just go here, make that thinner. Okay, so you recall we were just talking about Aussie yen and the fact that I couldn't trade it at the weekly pivot and support line confluence area. Well, this is now giving me a position that I can trade below here. The only
mm,
issue the only issue is trading into this higher low. But I've probably got enough to take profit here. If I take 15 odd pips of profit, I can get myself safe. And that's the risk because you've got bullish engulfing bar, significant higher low, but now you've got a lower high. What's this? I don't know.
mm,
It potentially is another higher low, but the break of both the weekly pivot and the trend line gives me confidence that if price were not to go long here, then it's going to go short, and
yeah,
that's a pretty cool bar. Don't mind that. So I'll be looking at that in an hour and a half. Sure, I think
mm,
pound yen. As I say, this may be a proxy for Aussie yen, which I can't trade, but it's very, very similar. And the benefit is I can get profit before here, and I'm below the weekly pivot and the trend. Yep, that's the go for me, mate. Pound yen on the 4 hour.
Okay. Does the pound yen have any interest to the upside with the current bar? You know, would that be would that be a setup of any type?
Yeah, what spoils it, and I totally get where you're coming from, but what spoils it is, and I can't use that trend line, although that's looking like a false break as well. That setup's looking really good. I could probably use this one. No, I can't. So I've got to come right down to here to pick this up. And there's the problem. The
Hmm.
problem is I've already had two breaks of
Yeah.
that same one. So that makes this unreliable for me. And look, beautiful scenario where we've had an indecisive spinning top, then a big bear bar away from the daily pivot and the resistance trend line. But the resistance trend line isn't there anymore. It's there. So you're taking what? Let's call it, wow, 65 pips of risk into 20 pips of support or resistance, sorry, or even less than that. I guess it's not much different to this one down here, to be fair. But at the end of the day, again, we're in a massive downtrend. Have been for a while, but yeah, look, there's signs. Again, this is similar to what I've been talking about on euro pound. It's so I can make a case either way. What do I do? Do I play it either way? Do I go short and long? Who knows? I think I like the short. I do like the short.
Yeah.
That's the way I'll play it. But yeah, I can see your case. There is a case definitely for the long. Um, Again, I think I'd like to see it break and take out the daily pivot, take out the trend line, take out the highs here, which is a lot of noise. That there's a fair bit to break through here. Then retest it before I want to get long. Whereas the short, it's a nice little flag pattern, not perfect, but we've had a
Yeah.
break of the bottom, retest of that weekly pivot, throw that in, becomes a double cross as well. I've just shown you it's a false break of another resistance trade line as well. I think that's the way I want to go.
Hmm.
If they'll let me.
That makes
Don't
sense.
always. And that's about all I want to look at, mate. EuroCAD. I have a look at EuroCAD when it's not in no man's land, but gee, it spends a lot of time in no man's land, this cross. And as you can see, since February, yes, we've been in a range, but gee whiz, we've stuck to the middle of that range. You can see that the monthly pivot has barely moved for 4 months, and that's pretty much a sign that I don't need to trade this anytime soon. Bring it up here or bring it down here, yep. But and even when we get down here, look what happens. We get a big drive up. We got up here, we got a big drive down. Makes it very, very difficult to trade the range. So not my favourite pair at the moment. And that's about me.
Great stuff, mate. Okay, well, the FTSE is attempting to push to the upside. This is going to make the short actually quite difficult. Market barometers have calmed down. Market breadth has calmed down quite significantly. So let me just show you what I've got here. So this is the hourly charts, and it's currently pushing to the upside. This isn't the concern. The hourly chart, giving us an engulfing bar, would be a concern in itself, but also is this 4-hour bar, which is the real concern. Where that actually tested a low and it's pushed back into this area. That makes that a little bit concerning. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not looking for short. It just means that the timing is likely to be maybe a little bit later. Also, looking at this particular indicator here, look how flat that is. It's really not really showing too much. And when this starts to break to the downside, then pops up, what I want to see is a further move down, just to show that there is some liquidity in the market and a bit of volatility, which just isn't there. So while that's not there, I think we are waiting. We're just looking to put the brakes on right now and see if I can get some kind of indication of the move to the downside. The market breadth is not currently, but just posted another kind of fairly decent number. So we're looking at market breadth, which is currently not current, sorry, but looking at around about 59, 60%. Now I say not currently because it's on a 15-minute delay, which is absolutely fine. Because we're not looking at market breadth for entries, we're just looking at an overview. And the overview is giving us really a market which is meandering between the 50% and 60% line. So that's what I'm looking at as a general kind of point. Yes, you can use market breadth for entries, but that's just not the way that I use it, mainly because the price to get this on a real time is triple what I pay for just to get this information. But I can get enough information on this just to tell me that the first hour, generally speaking, is, or the first 42 minutes more accurately, or first half an hour actually because of the delay, is really looking more positive than negative. So there's no real desire at this stage to be selling this market off. And that just suggests that there could be some further waiting to be done, and that's what I'm going to do. It doesn't say that we should be looking at the longs even, because we're not in that scenario. We're not looking at a lower high here. We're looking at a base point of a potential distribution pattern. And even though I like base points for entries, I don't like base points particularly when they are so high in the range of the overall move. And what I mean by that is when I look at a clean chart and when I look at the monthly, it's kind of in the higher range of the move rather than the lower end of the range. If this would happen down here, which actually we did take a trade down there initially to the upside, then that would be different. But because we're sort of like in the higher end of this range, then I'm not so interested in looking at the longs just yet. Obviously, if things break up, then break forward, then I will look for the trade to the upside. But at this particular moment, I'm still looking for the short. I'm still on the hunt for the short, but I just haven't got enough information which suggests that the timing's right. And we've talked about OPEC. We've also talked about the meeting with the Fed chair. Yes, there's this situation with Iran, but that at this stage hasn't filtered straight into the market. So it's kind of suggesting that there's still some hanging on to be done. And I'm not so keen to get into the shorts as yet. So there's just a bit of a lack of information. No point in trading if there's not enough out there. The one area that I might consider just getting into the short is if the market pops up to and beyond slightly the pivot area, because then I will have a couple of trend lines along that area as well. So it pops up there again, then I'll be interested in probably just triggering in a short, and that's probably the next best. So popping up here, I might well be interested. It may well be into the US session. We might be looking at that now instead of the UK session. But certainly for right now, mate, there's again, there's not really a lot that I can do either. Price is where I want it, but I don't really like the background of what price is suggesting here. It could change. There's no two ways about it. It could change over the course of the next 15 minutes. And what I'd really want to see in the course of the next 15 minutes is the grab for upside fail. So if this ends up under this particular point, that would be okay. That'd be a fairly decent signal. But they are going to try. You can see that the sellers are trying to get out of the market now, and I just want to know what the appetite for the bulls are here. And I'm not going to know that probably now until the hourly bar is closed, because the 15 hasn't given me anything to grab onto. The 4 hour is still a little bit tenuous because of the particular bar that is forming. So I need to wait for the top of the hour now, and the top of the hour will need to close beneath this level here. And if it does, and it's only 5 pips, but if it does close beneath that, then that's going to give me a little bit more confidence. Now at that point, I'm going to need to shift around to the other markets and see what they are telling me. And I'll quickly shift to gold, which is still pushing higher and can still do so. The Cacaron is similar actually to the FTSE, where it's trying to grab to the upside. Let's just check the 15 on that as well. Yeah, it's trying to grab very, very similar to the FTSE, where it's trying to grab to the upside. So a weaker looking Cacaron in the next 15 minutes is going to be a little bit more pleasing. The China 50 is right on a weekly pivot, so that's an area of potential resistance anyway. The DAX is just above that weekly pivot, so again, need to see some weakness on the DAX. It's closed the gap, which maybe it needed to do, and that would help if we get the close below the weekly chart. Sorry, the weekly pivot. The S&P is still pretty low as well, so that's showing a little bit of downside. So we may well still have a trade here, actually, mate, looking at this, but I just need it just to unfold a little bit further before I trade it, and it's probably going to come from that hourly, I would suggest.
Okay, I've just spotted something as well on the 30-minute chart, euro pound. So let's take a look at that. Now this becomes a question of, again, it's like a FOMO trade. I call it a just in case trade. Is it the same thing? Probably is.
Just in case. Yeah, I guess so.
It's probably the same thing. Look, you could trade this on the 30-minute chart. You could trade, or you could wait another 11 and a half minutes and trade it on the hourly chart. I'm not sure which is best, to be fair.
Well, aren't they going to be the same thing?
They'll be the same entry. Depends on where this candle finishes, as to whether it be the same stop loss.
No, I presume you're looking at a short here.
Yes, that's right. The thing that needs to be considered is what we're trading into. And we need to put that on our chart just to remind us that we're going into that we're clear of that one. We're bang on a resistance, a support level, however. That they know, don't they? They just know. They're looking over your shoulder all the time.
Yeah. Oh God, I really like this one actually, mate. Do you know what? Can I just show you one thing of this on the daily?
Sure.
Now, everybody knows that I like the RSI, so I'm just going to give you guys a little RSI tip on this one, because I really like this one. Okay, here we go. Now, all this is, sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. But let's check this on the RSI. So looking at this on the daily, the daily is showing us, how can I do this actually? Can I do it like that? Yeah, let's do it like that. Okay. Look at that. That's right on the level there. That's right on the level, and huge divergence. So there's different ways that RSI can be used, obviously, but when you see a divergence play, which is basically bouncing off a trend line like that, then that gives you a really good indication that that this market is overdone. Now, whether the shorts are in play is always going to be a question of timing. Whether the shorts in play now is going to be a question of timing. But you might want to wait for a bar just to give you what would look like an evening star, or you might just want to enter on the entry that Jeff's talking about, but look at it as a longer term play. And if you look at it as a longer term play, then that's just going to mean just put your stops at the highs. I mean, there's plenty of room for downside here. And when we see this on a daily chart, then even if you take profit at the lows here, it won't be the worst trade in the world. I mean, it would be more than a 1-to-1, but it wouldn't be the worst trade in the world, because a breakdown of this particular level, then you're looking to add. So you can start thinking about yeah, I mean, look at that, mate. If that was to break down, if this low gets taken out, that is gone, isn't it?
Yep.
So I think you're looking at something which could be a really good entry, and then it's just going to be how you're going to manage that trade to get the profit in the bank and the rest of it just following. And actually, you're going to give us a much tighter stop. So that could be even better. I'm just looking at this on a daily chart, but if you can get an intraday setup, that means you can put a tighter stop in place and then see if this is going to break down, because the dailies are showing certainly that there is a bit of evidence, not necessarily enough evidence because we haven't looked at everything, but there is a bit of evidence to suggest that with a divergence play and the bounce of a trend line and an area which ultimately is a sell zone, which is right here. That is a sell zone. Just where we sit, there is a sell zone up here, and I won't just use that line. I'm going to use this one as well. Then you might well have something which could really start to move back in negative territory again. So I really like that. If we can get an entry on that one, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, well, you got three options: 30-minute, hourly, 4-hourly. The 30-minute is already there. The hourly is all but there, and the 4-hour is still about 5 hours away. So, name your poison. You could, mind you, put a small stake trade in at the moment on the 30-minute chart, trading this bar here. We haven't had a close above that, or we haven't had that high hasn't been pierced. So that would be your tight stop, right? If you want to trade this, you could put a tight stop here. You could put an entry exactly where I've got that level, which is 89.17. Or if you wanted to, you could sneak it below there and put it, 3 or 4 pips underneath it. You could wait for the hourly and do exactly the same thing. It would be exactly the same trade at this point, unless price gets back up here. Or you could wait for the 4-hourly and allow this to break, close down here, pardon me, and then retest this area here. And that's the thing. If you wait for the 4-hour, you may miss the trade. If you don't wait for the 4-hour and you use the tight stop situation, if that 4-hour candle does come back, it could bite you in the bum and take your stop out. So that's the consideration that you need to use. Again, we've analysed this, I won't say ad nauseum, but we found a head and shoulders. We found a strong resistance level. We found a nice reward underneath us. It's one of those things that I think I will place the order on the hourly chart. It will be small stake, as I said. Where do I put my stop? Do I trust this area here, or do I have a look at the 4-hour chart and think to myself, well, if this 4-hour bar comes back, it's likely to come back and even test the daily pivot. So let's have a look at that level on the hourly chart. Daily pivot. So I would then be inclined to put my stop above the right shoulder if you wanted to be safe. That would then give you a risk of, say, you put your entry there, about 35 pips if you want to trade the hourly, right? I think that's probably a wise thing to do. You haven't quite got 1-to-1 before you hit the trend line. But as Ash pointed out, once you get through that trend line and maybe through this area here, boy, oh boy, oh boy, there's some pips available in this area. And a monthly pivot that's got now what? 5 days in the month left, which means we've got 2 days. What's today? Tuesday. 3 days of trading left to get down here. Maybe be a pretty bold move, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
Speaking of which, Ash.
Yeah.
I want to have a look at the Aussie. I'll come back to that. Now the Aussie, believe it or not, is now above its open for the month.
Interesting.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, when we go, have to look at our list here. So this is our list. We had, where is it?
While you're looking at that, I'll just place this trade on the. Or I
Here
won't
we go.
place it. I'll set it.
Yeah, I've got it here, mate.
Yep.
So we had an Aussie above its open, we had the euro above its open, we had the pound above its open, and we had the
Euro.
dollar around about flat against the yen. So interestingly, it basically pointed at weak dollar. Now the only
Pound's
one that
definitely.
didn't. Now are all those above their open?
Yep.
Okay, so the only one that there isn't was gold, because gold was had actually a signal for a fairly bearish month. But what is really interesting about this is that it says the dollar seems to struggle in June with the Aussie the strongest. Now I don't know if the Aussie has turned out to be the strongest. I think the euro is probably making a fairly good case for that. In actual fact, the whole sentence says gold is the weakest in June, and the dollar seems to struggle in June with the Aussie the strongest. So, you know, even if you played all of them with gold involved, then that would have been a profitable month. Just looking at the percentages of what tends to rally and what tends to struggle during June.
So relative to the dollar, which I can't give you the relative strength per se, but relative to the dollar, the Aussie is actually the weakest. But everything else is powered on.
Yeah,
That's month eight, right?
that's the month. Yeah, that's on the month. Yeah.
Mm. But of course, Bitcoin
Jeez,
at
yeah.
41.9% on the month is outshining the lot of them by a long way.
Oh, what a crazy move that is. I mean, Bitcoin now sitting at 11,350 pretty much, and it
Yeah.
continues to power forward. I mean, it's there seems to be no containing this particular move in Bitcoin. It's just going and going and going. In actual fact, I'm going to bring this onto a cleaner chart, but that's the Bitcoin chart all the way back at the pretty much the start of April, let's call it. The end of March, it just started to pick up, and I mean, it has been an absolutely crazy move, and you're really looking at almost 7,500 pips on Bitcoin. And if you'd managed to get in at the lows, then that's well, it's pretty close to a 10-1.
Bugger, eh? Or I better get back to this trade, I suppose. Euro pound. Here we go. Hourly chart. All right, you can see it's coming down now. It doesn't look as appealing on the hourly chart as it did. Get up there. Get up there. What do we got? 30 seconds to go. Love to see it close on the trend line. That'd be good. But even anywhere above the weekly pivot is not bad. Okay, so I'll do this on the EA so that anybody who trades the EA can set this up as well. And then I won't have to manage it while I have dinner. So we'll go slingshot. We'll go, this will be the light entry, right? It'll only be 0.25%, and then we'll barrel up a bit later if we get the opportunity on the 4-hour chart. So we're going to not use breaker bar. We're going to put our entry underneath this bar here, about 1 pip underneath that bar there, which is about 89, let's call it 89.15. That'll be our entry. Our stop loss is going to be above this swing, as I said, and it will be 89.53. So you got 38 pips of stop loss. 8953. Take profit, we won't worry about that. We will take a first profit, however. Entry there, stop there. Might just use 10 pips, I think. We'll take 10 pips at TP1, or TP1 at 10 pips if you like, we'll get a third of the position off at that point, and we'll keep our stops at 38. Did I say? I think so. Yes. That's TP1. TP2 is going to be the trend line basically, so it'll be DS2, which is at 88.94, which will be 21 pips below entry. Don't really like that. Want more? We won't go to the horizontal level. We'll go 88.73, which is 42. That's better than 1 to 1. That's where we want it. 88.73, 42 pips at TP2. So enable TP2. That'll be target level. Now I've forgotten. 0.8887, I think I said. No, that doesn't make sense. I'll get this on before we get triggered, I promise. 88.74. Let's make it 88.74, shall we? Gizmo. 88.74, and we'll take another third off at that point. And we will move our stops to entry at that point as well. You dashed thing. Nearly swore-ish. 88.74. 1/3. And stops to entry at that point. The rest we will leave open. So TP1's there, TP2's there. We've got to get through that trend line. That's probably the only issue. Stops to entry if we do get that, and then we'll just let it free fall until we get a couple of thousand pips in the bank. That'd be good. Again, phase 2 of this trade is if we do get I'd love to see a close below the weekly pivot, to be fair, but even if we've got a close on the weekly pivot or around about where we are now, and then we get a bullish bar next, in particular if it retested the daily pivot, that would be super. But anything that gets into this candle by half or better, I'd be happy to trade that short on the 4 hour as well. So you can probably load up on that one a bit more even than you have on the first one. Aggregate your risk up to full risk if you like. That would be the way I would go. So there you go, mate. That is me. I don't think there's anything else to look at. Very, very quickly, I'll have a look at the ones I was interested in. No. Yes. We've done that one. Pound Aussie, sorry. Nothing there. No, I'll have to wait for the 4 hour on that one as well. Aussie yen. That was the other one. Gee, that looks good, doesn't it? Dash thing. Oh, pound yen. Pound yen. We're going to proxy it, won't we? Pound yen. Yeah, that looks good too. 30-minute chart. No, there's no FOMO on the 30-minute chart. We can wait for the 4 hour, mate. So I'm done.
Okay. All right, mate. Great stuff. Well, back same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow. The FTSE 100 is not currently tradable. A little bit sticky, if anything else. It's just printing some further upside. If anything, you're probably looking for a small upside play here rather than anything else. But there's just a bit of there's just a lack of clarity. So with a lack of clarity, there will more likely be a continued push or some just messing about in this area. The 4 hour bar doesn't really help things out. It doesn't really give us a huge amount of information. If anything, it's a spinning top. So it doesn't tell us everything that we need to know. But the hourly didn't close under this level, so that hasn't helped. Still areas of potential resistance at this daily pivot, so we can check that out later on. I am going to be just keeping my ear out to the OPEC meeting and the Fed chair later on, and we can also check out to see if there's any further ramp up of tensions. But right now the market's quiet when it comes down to setups, and it's also quiet when it comes down to reasons for setup. So I am sitting on the sidelines until later, mate, until I get a little bit clearer picture. Still bearish, but I might take a long if things shape up in that particular direction. But we'll just have to see. You know, there's no clarity, so it just gives me a situation where I can't give any clarity. I just have to wait and allow the market to tell me what's the best thing to do, which at this stage is sit and wait.
Happy days. There's worse things to do than that, mate. I'll be having a look at the pounds and see how they go. They're the ones I'm interested in today.
All right. See you later, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. It's Wednesday tomorrow, so halfway through. Happy Tuesday and good luck with your trading. Speak to you later as well, mate.
Cheers, mate. Happy days.